everyone, welcome to another episode of the Performance Cafe. I'm really glad to have you here today. I've got an exciting topic for us. I think I say that every week, but it's so much fun to do what you love, right? So we've been talking a lot about accountability. I'm kind of stuck on that topic, I think, because it's something we don't hear enough about and we don't do enough about. Everyone says they want accountability. Everyone says they want to be accountable, but I'm not sure we're really getting to the nuts and bolts of it, which is why I'm so super engaged right now. So today I wanted to talk to you about coaching for accountability. Now, often managers would see themselves as separate from a coach. So a manager is someone who has to, it's like give information through, has to make sure people are doing their work, make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing, that kind of thing. And a coach is just someone who helps people achieve goals, basically. Well, actually, I'd like to meld the two today and say that every manager is also a coach. And I think the thing that I sort of discern between the two, beg your pardon, is that managers can often be in a telling mode and coaches are in a guiding mode. And I think if we can make that shift a little in the way that we think about working with individuals in all walks of life and in all ways, I think it just becomes easier for people to take that ownership. I'm going to give you an example. A parent will say to me, "Oh, my child doesn't listen to me." And then I say, "Okay, so what are you doing?" And they say, "Well, I tell them, what they should do, and I tell them why it's right and it's wrong, and I tell them what's expected of them. I'm very clear, right? Great. Clarity. We like clarity. A whole couple of our videos talk about clarity. But the problem is that instead of telling, they should be guiding. They should be asking questions, for example, like, so you want to do this? What are the consequences? Where's it going to go? What are the ups and downs of each option? And I think that if one helps people think through the situation themselves, you might likely to get understanding, which helps with the clarity, and ownership, because people feel really grounded in what they know. We know that one of the biggest reasons people procrastinate is just a lack of understanding. They feel uncertain, they have a lack of confidence because they feel like they don't understand what's required from them. So today I want to teach you a quick fix on how to become a coach if you're a manager. And another part of coaching that I want to bring out is that actually coaching is a very high accountability kind of environment. I will coach people, we will set up a topic, we will work on the topic. The individual will leave, the coachee will leave the session knowing what they have chosen to do about this situation and reaching this goal. And then when we meet again, we ask for feedback before we start on the next topic. So there's literally a closed accountability loop running through this. So the way I'm going to go about this today is I want to teach you the GROW model. Now, the GROW model is very easy. It's a 4-step process, and it is very simple, but incredibly effective. The first thing, the G of the GROW model, I want you to think of a little tree, the first little leaf that you get on the tree, is G for goal. Now, what's really interesting is as a professional coach, you could spend up to 30 to 40% of a session clarifying the goal. Why? Because if we don't get the goal right, nothing else matters. I think this is what I get when I talk about clarity with accountability as well. Is do people get what's expected of them? Do they really understand it? Do they understand the implications of it? Do they understand who's reliant upon it? Do they understand where it fits into the bigger picture? So once we've got the goal clarified, and that means that there's shared meaning between myself and the coachee or you and your team member about what needs to be done by when, why it needs to be done, and are there important features that need to be highlighted, either milestones or particular outputs that are part of this larger goal. The second little leaf on your tree is for R, and R stands for realities. And realities are great to identify when anyone is working towards an accountability. The reason for this is because I said so, as I've said before, is not a good sentence. So, okay, I've got to do this. It's crunch time. It's a deadline. What about my children? What about my studies? What about my elderly parents I'm taking care of? What about the commute that interrupts how much time I can take to have things done? What about team members that I rely upon? What about systems, processes, procedures? What about external shareholders that I depend upon? You see, a lot of people will go and take a look at those realities and go, oh, you're just being negative. But if we've got the realities, we know where our obstacles are. And our obstacles will lead us to our third little leaf. And that is opportunities. And I like to say to people, how are we going to change those obstacles to opportunities? How is what is in the way become the way? But this also takes some time and some thinking. So, for example, which of those stakeholders are really necessary? What of those systems, procedures, how do they impact? How do we plan around them? If we know that something's going to go wrong, how do we cater for it? What can we do differently? Let's think out of the box in a way that we can see, right, I've got this thing that's going to come down the pipeline. This is going to be the always problem that we always run into and always upsets everything. How do we plan around that? How do we integrate that? How do we solve it? How do we work with that thing that's in the way and either help it become the way or help it to get out of our way? You see, because if someone understands what's needed, they understand what's going to get in the way, and they understand how they can solve for that, well, then there's only one thing, and that's our fourth leaf, and that's the way forward. And the way forward is then that opportunity where that person goes, okay, now that we've got this, here's my commitment. Here is my action. This is where I'm going to take ownership of this thing because I actually get it. So you see, not just is it a great coaching framework, but Grow really helps us understand what needs to get done and how it needs to get done. What's going to get in the way? How are we going to overcome that? And how are we going to move forward? So I really like this approach, not just for coaching, but for briefings, for problem solving. And a really neat trick is when we've decided what the way forward is, it also allows for reflection. So we come around and we start at the goal again in a week or two. When you talk to that person and go, how are you doing on that goal? They can say, well, I've achieved this and this and this because I was very clear about what I needed to achieve. These realities that play out, these obstacles came up. This is how I got over it, but I've got this new obstacle. And then we can use the Grow model to get rid of that obstacle, to work around that obstacle. So it's an incredibly dynamic process. And what I really love about it is that it works even better when managers are available to help with reflection and understanding where people are getting stuck. Because you see, there is one reality. Team members are called team members, normally because they're not managers. They're not directors. They're not C-suites. So sometimes there's something they can't get done because what's blocking them is so-called above their pay grade. I'll give you an example. Manager has an employee and the employee is not doing as well as expected. What does happen though is that manager's executive will come in and give work to the employee without telling the manager. The employee really does not have the power or the mandate to say to the executive, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Even if you tell them that, everyone's going to think I'm risking my career. Of course, I'm going to try and do everything. I'd rather not say no and get it wrong than say no and be known as the person who doesn't have the can-do attitude, the person who's not the team player, the person who doesn't want to collaborate, the person who's demotivated and detracts and is so super critical because they're forever saying no. So you will see how we are needed as managers to sometimes help with those obstacles, to further empower our managers. Doesn't need micromanagement. Once we clearly establish the goal and we let them go and we keep on checking in and we go through the Grow model at a high level, sometimes it just takes a couple of minutes to just work through it and just check that everything is still working. It's all that's needed. The other thing is, it's a really, really cheap and easy tool to use to avoid therapy. Because what happens is, if you're constantly checking in and you've got understanding of the grow factors that this person is working with, you can also see where it's going to derail. Because one of those realities, and we spoke so much about it in a couple of weeks, is that person's personality, that person's strengths, where they're going to show up, where they're not going to show up. Otherwise, you go, well, Jax isn't going to do that thing. I just know they're not going to do that thing. Yes, of course, it's a reality. It creates an obstacle. But what do you as a manager do to create an opportunity from it so that you can show Jax that Jax actually can do that? So I think there's so much around clarity, also around self-awareness, because in these conversations, while we're having these coaching conversations, people can say, well, I'm really not good at that. And you can say, well, how can we support you? How can we train you? What do you need for us to help you to be able to develop this skill? Because if you develop it once, you can use it everywhere. So I think I hope I've actually adequately shown how Grow is not just a good way to help people be accountable and for you to actually hold people accountable, because they've, in the way forward, they've actually committed to it, but also that you can see how it's just in general a great way to hold conversations as a check-in to say where we at, what's working. I think that this is a great way to encourage ownership and encourage accountability, because by the time you get to W, if you've done this right, this person has self-created and self-authored to some extent this process to such an extent that they can't wait to get to it. It's their plan. Why wouldn't they follow it? Doesn't mean things can't go wrong, but they've committed. And that is going to make it easier for them to stay committed and stay the duration. So, as always, if you found this useful, and you're looking for more, we record these, we upload them after the fact onto video and, onto YouTube and Facebook, and related articles are found on my website, performforward.com. And then, of course, there are these live streams, which are held on my LinkedIn every Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. That's SAST or GMT -2. And always, if you have any questions or suggestions for topics, please do leave a comment and let us know on whichever platform you prefer. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But until next Wednesday, when I see you at the Performance Cafe, enjoy that. Have fun.